You know, in the late 80s, 90s, I had a chance to work for some charities. You know, if you're good at NLP, you'll see my eyes move here. So anyway, I had a chance to work for some charities. We had a system called this, not CYW, anyway, whatever, SES, or I don't know, some job company from the government. I can't remember the name of them now. Anyway, it turned out that, you know, the government back then, you know, you either get the dole or you have to take whatever job is given to you. So anyway, I found a job doing charity work. I ended up working for a firm, I think, called M&S Promotions or something like that, Mark Nicholas Smith Promotions or whatever may be. And I was collecting for Friends of the Brain, and I was collecting for all these other type charities, wheelchair supports or something in that sort of name. But the thing is that I had to get paid for what I was doing because it was a job. I was getting paid around 35% of my the income that I collected. So if I collected $400 for the day, I get 35%. If I collect only $10 for the day, I still get 35%. Eventually, you get taxed, you know, on your earnings, and it goes down. So really, you had to work hard with your voice. But the problem was that these charities that were there back then were scam run. They were actually like set up for businesses, and the money wasn't ending up going to the charities. But the problem was, as a collector, you know, people would ask you, are you doing this for free or are you getting paid? Well, I had to lie and tell them that I was doing this. The company at lunchtime comes around, drops their lunch off at the corner up here, and you know, and give us a Coke and this, that, the other, because people wouldn't donate, or not most people wouldn't donate if they knew you were going to get a commission from this. Now, when you work out that I got 35% on average, then the company gets, for instance, wheelchair supports. I got 35%. The head manager who was running us, he got his commission. Then the business got their commission. Then they had to pay for the shed or the business that they were running, the lights, the camera, the action, the other workers that were there. Your money wasn't going anywhere. Maybe not even 1% was even getting taken or getting donated. There was a time that I think it was the Department of Public Prosecutions. I was working for a charity for lungs or something, Australian Respiratory Distress Syndrome or something, and the Department of Public Prosecutors contacted me or something, and they wanted me to appear at court to give evidence over where the money was going, who was getting what, this, that, the other. But it wasn't actually only just going, or all these money not going anywhere. It was actually in Sydney, it was in Brisbane, it was in other states. I worked for one called, we'll call it Canyon Homes. Canyon Homes, I have to be careful how I say things, I guess. Canyon Homes, I used to go around, bang on the doors, collect money. Then the bloke who was running it, who sent me out in this map area to do, he was getting his cut, the church was getting their cut, and that's where your money went. Another one, I was on the Gold Coast selling pens. I think it was for a house with no wheelchair ramp, houses with wheelchair ramps. I'll be careful how I say that because they may still be running today. I'd get my percentage again for selling a pen. Then they would get their percentage, the lady who would send me out and give me the pens. and that's sort of how the story went. And then the business itself got paid also. So really, the money ended up with what they were doing that I could understand later. They were trying to build a house with a wheelchair ramp, so it had no steps, and that's what we were collecting for. Oh, crikes, it was funny. Now, ultimately, the public was being scammed. There was no way around it. Money was not going nowhere. As I said, I went to court. Money wasn't going nowhere for collecting for lung breathing disorders or disease called Da Nang lung or something like that. And we had to come up with speeches to sell our product that was on a pamphlet. Now, as good as it gets, collecting money back then in the 80s and 90s was good as putting a shoebox on the ground in a crowd of people and just screaming out, donate for the da 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 da, and people would throw their money in. There'd be a few homeless, you'd have to be careful because there'd be a few homeless people around, looking at the money that's being thrown into a box, and they'd want to knock you over. Don't blame them for collecting free money. That's called free money. So it still goes on in the 90s, 2000s, that people are collecting money. They're taking out their commission, and then by the time it comes to donating to the charity, it ends up that there's nothing left for the charity. When I was doing mine, I still had to earn my money. I still had to buy my cigarettes. I still had to buy, at the time, my food for the week. I had to pay my rent. I had to buy my travel tickets, clothes, all that sort, and shoes. You'd be wearing them out pretty quick, walking for 8 to 12 hours a day, depending on where you were placed. So, yeah, scam charities. They're called scam charities because your money doesn't get anywhere. At some point you might end up seeing every now and then that they've donated 20% or 2% of, $2,000, and you think, wow, that charity must be pretty good, but they're not really. They've kept a lot of it for their own needs, not the needs of what it's intended for. Anyway, I've had a ramble. I wanted to talk about the scam charities. As I said, apparently I've worked for them, and I have worked for them back in the early days of my life, but that was a living. The job club or the job situation and social security back then, as I said, if you're offered a job, you had to take it. Otherwise, they'll cut you off your social security benefits or your unemployment benefits or whatever may be. Oh, it was a hard life back then, and kids don't know what they got now. They got it a lot easier. So when I hear of other people who take their commissions, I say, well, that's what you have to do to live by. I've taken commissions to live, to have a living. Also, I've seen where the money goes. I think one time, oh jeez, it cut me out.